folks, I'm here in the botanical gardens of Kiev, Ukraine, working on some very important projects. I'm chasing the Holy Grail as it relates to not only finance but also justice, and how the two will come together in a way that will pretty much upset the apple cart as it relates to the corrupt justice system. I'll talk more about that in the big picture in a couple upcoming videos, but for now I just want to discuss a little bit about priorities and the priority that we all should have in terms of learning the law and learning the system. You know, we're brought up in a system that is designed to control us and enslave us from the day we're born. So the cards are stacked against us, right? That being the case, the question arises, why are we all so damn ignorant of how it works? And that's why it's so important to understand the law and how it works. And you might say, as many people do, well, what difference does it make? The courts are so corrupt to begin with. No matter what you do, they don't listen. And while that may be true, I would make the analogy that we're walking through a minefield, and you have an opportunity to be able to recognize where those mines are set and how to avoid them, how to walk around them. Would you like to have the map of where those mines are to get through the minefield? Or would you rather just put on the blindfolds and walk blindly through and take your chances? Okay, we know the system is set up to rape and pillage us financially, intellectually, emotionally. People are literally being destroyed every day. Their whole lives destroyed, families torn apart, lifetimes of work stolen, the rugs pulled out from underneath us. If you've had any experience in court, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so back to the question, why bother if the courts are so corrupt? First of all, once you can walk into the courtroom and put the court on notice merely by your behavior and an exhibition of the knowledge that you have, you put the court on notice that you have some clue what's going on. That immediately puts them on guard to be thinking that, uh-oh, perhaps our normal tricks and traps may not work. We're going to have to be careful in this case. And with that in mind, that changes the entire atmosphere of the courtroom. So right off the bat, it's just like being pulled over by a police officer. If you act dumb and submissive, like most people do, they know they can get away with anything, right? However, if you immediately put the officer on notice that you are knowledgeable, he's going to treat you in an entirely different manner. So that being the case, that's first and foremost, okay? Secondly, with some knowledge and some skill, you'll be able to maneuver the prosecution and the judge into a compromising position. And they'll realize that they've been put into a corner. And once that happens, you have the advantage, because they will not want to cross certain lines knowing full well what the consequences might be. Now, in recent years, we can see from what's been going on in the political world, in the judicial world, in the official world, in the institutional world, that the criminals felt that they were very safe and that there really were no repercussions for whatever they did. The good news for us is that now, with Trump in office, that is no cure-all, of course, but the world has been put on notice, and I mean the world, that there's a new sheriff in town. And there is a global movement right now towards nationalism and populism, which is a conservative movement steering the liberal left lunatics back in the direction of reason and law. So we have that going in our favor. All right. Now, needless to say, anytime you go into a courtroom, it's a crapshoot. Nothing is guaranteed. Nothing works all the time. Everything is dependent upon A, the judge you're dealing with, and B, how you handle yourself, your own knowledge and your skill. You know, knowledge and law, based on the fact that we're brought up in this system, and this system affects every facet of life that we deal with, we should learn how to use the system, learn how the system works, as soon as we learn how to get change at the cashier and handle personal finances as you did probably in the first grade. That's when we should start learning this type of thing. Did anybody teach you this? No. It's been kept from you. And that being the case, you have been brought up to serve the system, to work for the system, to produce for the corporate farm. And that being the case, there's a lot that we need to do to counterbalance that. We've got time to make up for, we've got ground to make up. And that's very important for us. That's why understanding the law and the system is something that we all need to understand. Couldn't help but smile at that cute girl sitting on the bench. Ukrainians, wow. Pardon me. All right. So that being the case, we are all at a disadvantage in view of the fact that we've been affected by the globalists. The fabric of our families has been torn apart or is highly strained due to our financial condition, which is no accident, by the way. And you know all about that. You're here for a reason. You've done your homework and background studies, so I don't need to go over that. But my point is that this is why we need to make our understanding of the law and how to work within the system as much as possible. As long as you're in the system, you've got to learn how it works and you've got to manage it well. That leads us to the next point. Well, why don't we just get out of the system? And that would be highly preferable. Just to completely turn our backs on it and walk away from it. And you say, well, Mark, how can we do that? We're completely entangled. Well, I'm working on a project to accomplish just that. To come out of Babylon. You've probably seen a couple other videos I have on the YouTube page addressing that subject specifically. And there's a lot more to come in that regard. I've only just begun putting together the pieces that are necessary to have a complete support system and community support for those that truly want to come out of Babylon and simply live in the ways that Jesus taught us in the ecclesia. We'll save that subject for another time. That's a completely different subject matter. So, as long as you're in the system, you need to understand it. You need to learn how to maneuver and use it to your advantage. Because right now the system has the advantage. Why? Because more than likely you, unless you are the 1/100th of 1% of the population that is actually adept at handling themselves, and there are people that are, perhaps you're one of them. But most of us aren't. And that's an extreme disability that you have, which can be compensated for in one way by joining the Lighthouse Law Club. There are many sources of good information out there, but I'm not aware of any that are as comprehensive, that covers as many different areas of life and many different possible approaches than what we have. All right? And that's the whole purpose that I've put it together. I've got a lifetime of experience. I've combined that with several other lifetimes of experience from other people. And together, with the combined knowledge of our other active members who have their own experience, it's a combination that you just won't find anywhere. So we all need to make it a priority to understand how we live in the system, as long as we participate in that system. Okay? I'm hopeful that that might be a temporary situation for you, and that ultimately you will come out of the system with what we have coming up in the near future. All right, so I think I've said enough. The priorities should be clear. You either learn to use the system to your advantage, become strong and efficient and powerful with the knowledge and wisdom that you can gain, or remain ignorant, weak, and susceptible to attacks, rapes, and pillages by those who operate in and for the system. That's pretty much what the choice comes down to. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed your little stroll through the botanical gardens in Kyiv, and I'll look forward to talking more about this and related subjects in the next video. All right? Take care. God bless.